Thank you, Charlie, and thanks for everybody for coming. And thank you, AmCham, for letting us do this today. So let's begin. We've got a lot to cover, so we're going to try and get through this in the time allocated. Is the microphone working back there okay? Yeah? And everybody can hear me, no problem, right? Okay. As Charlie said, ask questions as I go through this stuff, because I'm going to try and cover it really quickly, because there's a lot of material. So if you feel like just stopping me, you don't understand anything, please stop me and ask. All right? So I'll skip this stuff because we already kind of covered it. That's my Twitter below my name, if you want to find me on Twitter. These are the things we're going to cover today: search engine optimization, search engine marketing, electronic or email direct marketing, social media, and Q&A. But as I said, ask me questions along the way if there's anything you don't understand. Okay, so search engine optimization, right? So you build a website. Hopefully, you guys, you're entrepreneurs, you've got a business, you've got a website, right? You want that website to be found on the search engines, right? The prominent search engines that everybody uses a lot of the time is basically Google. But some other people use Yahoo, some other people use Bing. But the important ones are really Google and Bing, because Yahoo actually gets its results from Bing. So you want to focus on Bing and Google. So you build a website, you've got an online presence. There are millions of websites out there. How do people find your business, right? This is what search engine optimization is all about. You need to do certain things to make sure that people can find you when they search when they search for a particular type of business. They're looking to buy shoes in Hong Kong, or they're looking to make a trip, right? The first thing they're going to do is go to Google and search, right? Unless they already know your website, they found out your URL via some other way, then they'll normally go to the Google or Bing, right? Now, when they go to Google and type in certain keywords to find out whatever they're looking for, results come up, right? And the process of doing search engine optimization is for you to be on the first page, or at least, at most, the second page. You don't want to be on the third or fourth page, because once you're there, nobody looks at it. I mean, honestly. When you guys have done searches, how often do you go beyond the third or fourth page, right? You all usually look at the first page. So here's an example. You search for something, you see this result set. Search engine optimization is for you to get to that green section where it's called organic results or natural results, right? Basically, this is because the search engines know about your website, and whatever the person has searched for has automatically come up based on just the keywords and the fact that your website is relevant for that. The other sections there, like the pink sections, I don't know whether you can see the color, but it's pink, right? There are ads there, and those are basically ads that people have actually requested Google, or in the case of Bing, to show if you put in certain keywords that match the ad, okay? But ideally, for most businesses, most websites, you want to be on the organic results, because you actually get that for free if the keywords that are being searched for match, right? What are search engines looking for, right? So you build a website. Basically, you want the search engines to find you and rank you higher than your competitors. And there's certain things you can do, and these things are free. You don't have to pay for anything to get those things, right? Is your content relevant? Basically, when people are searching for something, you want the website, your business, to match what the keywords are that the person is typing in. So if there's a match there, you rank. But you got competitors, so how do you rank above your competitors? That comes into the keywords, right? The keywords have to be unique enough that whenever people type, it matches exactly. Linking, right? That's another thing. You've got a website, and it's about shoes. What actually promotes your website a lot on search engines is if other websites that sell shoes, or are authorities on shoes, or they're blogging about shoes, are linking to your website. Those are called backlinks, right? So you might have links going out of your website to other websites that are related to that particular topic or that business, but you also want other websites to come in, right? And it's also about the quality of the link, right? If a link is coming to your website and it's coming from Wikipedia, the chances are it's going to rank higher, simply because Wikipedia is an authority on a lot of different topics, right? So you want good quality links coming to your website too. And the search engines look at this kind of stuff and they rank you higher relative to your competitors, right? You want to also have authority on your website, right? Is your content, and if people want to talk about shoes, they want to talk about travel, where are they going first, right? Are they going to your website first, or are they going to some other website? How much authority do you have on the net, right? And then finally, user experience. That's really important. Search engines also detect what the user experience is when people use these websites, right? How many times have you guys gone to a website, you've done your search, you see the results set, you click on the first link, you go to the website, and then right away you hit the back button on the browser because the website doesn't really look, excuse me, the website doesn't really look like it's got what you're looking for, or it's not just right? Or you start clicking through the website, but then you're not finding exactly what you're looking for, so you go back to Google and you do the search again. This is all part of the user experience. Typically, you want people to just once they get their website and you're providing service or product, they start interacting with your website. And Google monitors this stuff as well. And that also ranks your website if the user experience is great. And I mean, some of the other things too are also intuitive. Like for example, if a user goes to your website and your website is slow, or they click on something and it doesn't take them to where they think it was going to take them, or it doesn't bring up the page, all these fall under user experience, right? And all of this stuff is factored in when the search engines rank your website. Oh, question?
So looking at these four components, how many websites that you've actually seen are really, really up there on all four?
I've seen that a lot of tech websites, like for example, Amazon.com, they do this stuff really well. CNN.com, they do this very well. And they actually tools, talk about tools later on, they're actually tools you can use to kind of see how you're ranking in terms of some of this content. I mean, there's more to this. I just kind of summarized the most important ones, but there's more to it, and it gets a lot more nuanced, right? But I'll see a lot of websites. Like I have a client, we had a client like maybe 2 months ago, right, who had a website, and they were not doing a lot of this stuff. And they obviously, if you search for them, it wasn't coming up on Google. They're probably like on the third or fourth page, which wasn't good enough. So they actually called in and we consulted with them, and they're actually redoing the website now. So it's really important. And you don't need to pay anybody to do this. Just gotta do it when you're building a website. Ideally, you gotta think about SEO. But once you already got a website, then you can go back and fix these things. Okay? Any other questions? I thought you had a question. You okay? Okay. What doesn't work? Keyword stuffing. Don't overuse keywords. It's not necessary. Just put things that are really relevant to your particular business, right? Don't over-optimize. Some people go crazy with this stuff, and they go to certain websites that try to understand the algorithms that the search engines are using to actually rank these pages. Don't do that, because they're changing the algorithms anyway on a daily basis, weekly basis, and they're proprietary. The only thing you can really do is kind of do the basics. Some of the things I talked about earlier. Go to the website, use the search engine's tools. They've actually got tools to help you with search engine optimization. Use the tools. Follow that. You don't need to go beyond that. And typically your website will rank quite easily. Content stitching, basically don't try and put a lot of different content across different websites and link it to your page. Search engines are smart enough now to pick this kind of practice and actually de-rank you, so it shouldn't happen. Have your own content there that's really relevant to your business, because you know it best, right? And then, of course, tying the last point that I had on the previous slide, poor user experience. You don't want the users to have a bad experience on your website, because, again, that will de-rank you on the search engines.
Quick question. What would constitute over-optimization?
Over-optimization would typically be things like when you put too many keywords. So for example, let's say you've got a website that sells shoes, right? And you go to your competitor's website and you see what keywords that they're using. You do your keyword research, because there's actually tools you can use. You put a whole bunch of keywords there. Basically, you put everything under the sun that's got something to do with shoes. You don't want to do that, right? You want to do something specific for your website. For example, let's say you're selling those shoes in Hong Kong, right? You want to put keywords that are specific to Hong Kong, the type of shoes, the brands that you're selling, things that are relevant to your particular website, but not everything under the sun. Because if you're selling shoes in Hong Kong, chances are you might not have customers in the US necessarily. You might ship stuff, but let's say assuming you don't do that, you're just catering to the Hong Kong market. You don't want to put content that's going to attract people who are searching for shoes from America. So you want to make sure that your keywords don't rank you higher for those type of people who are searching, right? So you don't want to overstuff words, and that's an example of trying to over-optimize your website. You want to make it very particular, okay? So some of the things you got to do when you're doing the keywords, include the actual product names, because sometimes people search using the product name, right? The brand, so I was talking about the shoe example, model numbers, codes, because people search using this stuff and it's very specific. So if your website has that as keywords, it'll be easily found, right? Use the keyword analysis tool, right? All these search engines, Bing, Yahoo, Google, they've got tools you can use to actually help you select the keywords. Include misspellings, because sometimes people misspell things. How many times have you guys typed something in Google, you hit enter, and it says, well, you're looking for this. It actually does the correction for you, but then it shows you some results anyway, right? So imagine if you've got the misspelling there, then you're going to rank higher without Google even having done the correction of your spelling. So put that in there too. Put hyphenated words. Also, put words that are pronounced differently in different languages, right? If they're relevant to the content on your website, because all of that matters. Research competitors' websites, see what they're using as keywords. Again, use the tools for this purpose. As I said, point number 5. And these are some of the tools. I would love to go through all these tools and actually show you, because it's actually kind of neat to look at these tools, but there's no time to go through all of these for now. But these are examples of the tools. Hopefully, you guys can get a copy of this PowerPoint presentation and you can kind of go through it yourselves and actually use the tools, okay? So, okay, now you've done the optimization, your website is ranking. You want to be able to do the marketing with it. Remember, I was saying to you, when you do the search, you've got the organic results or natural results on the bottom section, the green section. On the other side, you've got the ads, right? So this is where search engine marketing comes in. You're basically using the search engine to market you, but you're actually setting up a campaign using the tools that the search engine gives you to market yourself. You're not just relying on the search engine finding you and categorizing you based on the content in your website. You're actually going to Google and saying, okay, if people search for these keywords specifically, rank me, and that's when you appear in those other sections, right? So you'll have, I'll show you this diagram instead. You'll have your campaign, your overall campaign, your marketing campaign, right? And each of the campaign, you're gonna have certain ads, right? And the ad group, you want to probably do it by theme, like maybe the type of shoe or the brand of shoe, if you're selling shoes, right? And then for that particular type of ad group, then you search for the particular keywords that match that ad group, right? And then you put those in your ad, okay? So that's the basic structure of how that works. Now, some of the words you need to know when you're actually doing this using the tools on Google are things like the bid. How much you're willing to spend for each of the clicks that whenever people click on the sections where you appear for the ads, right? Ad quality is, ranked from 1 to 10. It's basically determined by relevance. Is your ad really relevant to what they're putting in when they search, right? And then ad rank is determined by the bid and the quality. And then the ad position, which is determined by the search engines, is actually ranked according to how many people are actually going to your ad when they search for something. So the more people actually clicking on your ad and actually using your service, right, the less you get paid. The less you pay Google, for example, to actually have that ad on the web, right? Because basically Google tries to promote your service more if more people are using it. Makes sense, right? So it does the ad positioning based on that. And I'll show you a diagram on this. Like for example, here's one. Right. So if you go to adwords.google.com, once you set up all your ads, it'll show you kind of like this. And for all your different campaigns, you'll have different ads, right? And then you'll have all this information that's showing. There's a lot more information there, and I'll leave it to you as an exercise for you guys to actually look at and play with, right? One of the things that you also got to think about is not overspend, right? When you're doing these ads, don't spend too much money on doing it. Experiment first. The whole idea of experimenting is going to come up a lot as we go through these slides, because you want to get to know the technology, you want to see how it works, you want to understand how to use the tools, right? I mean, you can read about it, you can come to a presentation like this, but unless you actually get there and get your hands dirty and not overspend while you're doing it, you're not going to really know. So, have a modest budget, try different ads, see how it's working, and then change your strategy accordingly, based on the feedback that you get when you actually measure the metrics for the ads, how the ads are performing, right? One slide. Oh, go ahead.
So just
Sure.
ask you had a figure of $500 at the bottom there. Is that for somebody who's starting out and trying this area, and what's that based on? What maybe you can give an idea of the kind of the approximate value of keywords on Google.
Well, you can make them quite cheap actually. That $500 is for you to try different strategies, and it's actually quite a lot to basically test the waters, right? It's a number that we came up with because we work with a lot of startups, and they typically don't have a lot of money to do advertising. But based on your budget for advertising marketing, then you can change that accordingly. But 500 is good to just start to get some idea.
Is that a daily basis, or?
No, you can determine the time factor. It's not like, okay, I'm going to spend $500 today. When you set up the ad, you can determine how long you want the ad to run for, right? And then Google, based on how much you're going to bid for each ad, how much you're willing to bid for each ad, Google will then deduct the money accordingly.
But Google also allows you to set a limit on a daily basis.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
So you're saying that 500 would just be over a test period?
Yes. Yeah. And in that test period, that will give you enough information to see what's kind of working, right? And then from there, you can then spend the bulk of your money on ideas that actually work, campaigns that work. Okay. Just to compare really quickly, SEO and SEM. SEM is fast, right, in terms of marketing, because you go to Google and tell Google, if somebody puts in these particular keywords, rank my website already, right? So no matter how bad your website might be, no matter whether, those things we covered, if you don't do any of those things or you don't do them very well, simply because you're telling Google, if somebody puts in these particular keywords, put me on the ads list, it's fast. I mean, people can find you right away. Whereas with SEO, it takes more time, right? Because you can do all those best practices that I talked about earlier. Make sure that your website is fast, user experience is great, you got the right links in place, your content is relevant, right? But that takes time for that to be indexed in the search engines. And eventually, you'll be ranking higher just because you're following the right practices, but it doesn't happen immediately. So you gotta be patient with it if you're doing SEO. Here it says URLs don't matter with SEM. Again, going back to the point that if you don't really follow the best practices, but you just tell Google, if somebody types in these particular keywords, find me, then your URL doesn't have to matter. But with SEO, it has, because that promotes if you do the best practices, that promotes SEO naturally. In the sense that if you got a website and it's got something to do with, let's say, copywriting, right? The actual URL, the address that people put in the browser, it has to have something related to that topic for it to rank. It's one of the small things that you do, but it matters. So again, SEO is different that way. Okay. Again, SEM is easy to measure because you get all these tools, you determine what you budgeted, you can easily determine how you're doing. SEO is not so easy to measure. You do the things that you're supposed to and the tools that you can use, but it's a very organic process, right? And as I mentioned earlier, the search engines are always changing, the algorithms. So it takes time to get a sense of how things are working, right? The disadvantage of SEM, obviously, it's an ongoing expense. You're spending money to rank higher on the search engines, right? People usually don't trust those ads. How many of you guys actually click on the ads when you do a search, right? Most of the times people go to the natural section or organic section. So, but it doesn't mean that nobody uses it. People definitely use it, but generally people don't trust it because it's got the ad next to it. And of course, you gotta check your rate of investment, right? Because if you got your ads there and nobody's really using them, how do you measure that, right? On the other side with SEO, takes time, as I mentioned earlier. It takes a while for the search engines to rank you. It requires a well-made site. Consider all those points I mentioned before, right? You gotta know what you're doing when you build your site. Or if you've got a site already, you gotta make sure that it's following the best practices to get good SEO. And it's harder to measure in general, although there are tools that you can use for that purpose, right? Okay, so that's SEO and SEM. Any questions, Joe?
So earlier you mentioned about SEO, talking about how friendly your website is, or any way we can improve by revamping the website. So as in, how shall we judge the ROI, return on investment of revamping or modifying a website? What is the matrix out there? For example, is that the time to stay on your website that we can show before and after to compare whether the investment to revamp the website is worth it?
Yeah, the thing about SEO is it's hard to measure that, but the points that I mentioned, those 4 points I raised, right? There are things you can do without spending any money at all, right? If you have a website, then of course, if you notice that there's certain things about your website that you can improve to increase your SEO, then you need to invest money to do that, right? But even if you do, and you start ranking higher, it's hard to measure whether it was because of that or because of some other efforts, right? So it's not so easy to determine that, right? But you should do it if you want your ranking on search engines to increase. So you got to think about, okay, if I'm going to enhance my website, what am I going to do to enhance it, to factor in so that I rank high on the search engines, right? But how much money am I going to spend to do that? So that's the money you're looking at. And then hopefully your website starts ranking higher. I mean, typically if you follow the right practices, and Google, Bing, they've got a lot of information online that tells you exactly what you need to do to rank higher. If you follow that and use their tools, typically you rank quite easily. Yeah, go ahead.
You mentioned about creating backlinks a while ago. So in terms of creating backlinks, what we do in our company is we see content on different websites and then just use certain keywords to link back to our website. Are there other ways apart from content seeding to create backlinks?
You can start a blog and post that on social media. That's an example.
So a blog on our website.
You have a blog on your website, and then you've got it. Hopefully, you've got a presence on social media, and then you put a blog up on your website, and then you link from your social media into your website. It's another thing you could do. You can also have a video, and something that's relevant to your particular business, and people see the video on YouTube or Vimeo, any of these video websites, right? And somehow that links back to your website, right? And mind you, the search engines are not just searching for normal websites; they're searching social media websites too, right? They're searching the YouTube, they're searching Vimeo, they're searching Facebook, LinkedIn, all that stuff. So if they see links going back, that actually helps your SEO, right? You can also go to other websites that have got something to do with your business. Maybe put in a guest blog there or an editorial, and you can mention your company there. It doesn't have to be like, okay, here's just a link. You write something there like a blog, but then as part of the blog, you kind of reference your own company.
But will it affect authority? So for example, if you provide another website, a blog, so they have the original content and it just links back to your website, but the blog is on the other website.
So long as the other website has got something to do with your business, right? If it's completely irrelevant to your business, that actually hurts your SEO. Oh, question?
A lot of the stuff I hear about SEO is basically just have a good, honest sell of your product, and you should be, optimized.
A good honest sell.
Yeah, you know what I mean. You're not spamming it or anything like that.
Right.
In terms of outsourcing this to SEO providers, what advantage do they have over just anyone doing this, I guess?
Well, those guys follow this closely all the time, right? So, as I said before, the search engine's algorithms are always changing. They're quite complicated and they're proprietary. So Google won't tell you what the search engine algorithm they're using to rank websites. But you can follow, like if you go on Twitter, I do that. Go on Twitter, follow what the Google employees that actually work on the search engine, what they're saying, the changes that they're making to search engines, can follow that. Now, if you're running a business, you might not have the time to do that. Like follow every single blog on search engine optimization or search engine marketing. You want to run different parts of the business, or maybe your skill set is not so good for that particular thing. So in that case, you do the basics for free, right? You're not paying for that. Then you go, once you see that you've done everything that you can do without paying for it, then if you still want to rank, for whatever reason you're not ranking, then go to the professionals and ask for help that way, right? But in my experience, typically if you just follow what the websites tell you, the search engines tell you to do, and you use their tools when you're coming up with your keywords, you typically don't have to go to professionals to do it, right? If you're not ranking based on that, there's something wrong. You're doing something seriously wrong. No.
Just a quick question,
Sure.
about excuse me, search before we go on to EDMs.
Yep.
A lot of what you've talked about and what most people talk about in this area is about trying to get things listed or indexed by search engines. What happens if there's something on a search engine which you don't want the world to know about? And it's ranking very highly and people are seeing it and they're making a judgment based on that about you. What do you do in that instance?
Actually, Google was recently sued, I think, in Europe, because they had somebody wanted some content removed off their website, and they've actually started working on the tools to do that. They've actually have tools for you to go and say, I don't want this certain content on the website, on Google, right? But that process takes a while because they have to basically purge the index of that information, and that doesn't happen overnight. Right, but they do provide the facility. I haven't checked it out on Bing, but definitely Google provides some information. And if it's particularly bad information about your company and business, they can remove it. But one of the things I also want to say to that point, and we'll kind of cover that on the social media section, sometimes you don't want to remove any negative information on your website. Simply because when people search and they see other people interacting with the company, customers interacting with the company, and they see how you've handled that situation, right? They will be more likely to want to work with you because they're like, okay, a customer was not happy about a certain situation or service, right? But the company actually worked with them to resolve the problem. That can actually help you. So it depends what kind of information is there. I think most of the times when people want things removed, it's more like on a personal nature, right? But I think negative feedback should be an opportunity for you to improve and actually show to the world how you deal with your customers, because people are going to find it and then they'll see that and say, oh, this company is actually quite good in how it deals with its customers.
What happens if you can't get stuff removed?
Then you sue Google.
Because Google won't remove a lot of stuff. It's right to be forgotten. As only,
yeah.
For instance, it only applies to individuals, not to corporations.
Right.
So if a corporation out there sees something really bad about itself, that's somewhere out there on the web and has been indexed by Google, what do you do?
Sue Google is one of the resorts that people take. Can't really think of a way to get around that, because once it's in the index of these search engines, it's pretty much there to stay. And in fact, there's a website called Way Back When. It's a website that basically indexes everything on the web, so you can actually see different versions of your website over time as it changed. So you'd also have to worry about removing it there. So generally, you don't want to have bad information online, whether you're an individual or company. But when you do, depends what kind of bad information it is. If somebody's complaining about your product or service, you can take that as an opportunity to actually turn things around and show that this is how I deal with people not being happy with my product or service. If it's something on a personal nature, then like the lady did in somewhere in Europe, I forget what country, she went and she sued Google to have that information removed. But generally, these search engines don't want to remove information because that's their business, right? They want to be able to serve information when people search for it. So it's kind of a gray area, and I think it's still developing, but there's no real solution for it right now. We're going to talk about EDMs quickly. What's an EDM? Basically, electronic marketing, right? E-marketing. A lot of people send out EDMs. For example, all you guys are here because of EDMs, right? They're highly valuable because you've got somebody's email address, right? And in most cases, they've actually given you the email address and said, hey, listen, when you have information that's relevant to this particular topic or subject, email me about it, right? So it's more effective than other types of advertising. Here's some examples. It's very specific, immediate. Most people are checking their emails, right? You send an email, everybody's got smartphone, BlackBerry, iPhone, you name it, tablets. They're always checking their emails. So you send out an EDM, they get it right away. As opposed to maybe even social media, they only look at Facebook maybe twice a day, maybe once a week, who knows. But with email, you send out the email, they get it right away, they can respond to it. You can actually do a lot of testing with email. There are tools that allow you to do some testing and see how effective it is. And you can measure, right? It's got wide reach because everybody in the world has got email. Not everybody's on Facebook. Not everybody's using LinkedIn. But pretty sure most people have got email addresses, one way or another. Some people have several email addresses. And studies have shown that there's a better conversion rate for email than other traditional forms of marketing. And it's cost effective because it's free, right? Just like social media is free. Some commonly used terms, which I'll go through quickly. Call to action, basically what people actually do when they see your EDM, right? They get your EDM, they see in the inbox, what do you want them to do once they get it? Click-through rate, percentage of subscribers that actually act on it. You can measure all this kind of information, right? Landing pages, sometimes you ask them to click on a link that's going to take them to a web page. That web page is what they see when they get to it. That's your landing page. Conversion rate, people actually respond to it. Percentage of people respond, right? Because some people see your EDM and they won't do anything about it. And then you get bounces. You've got this soft bounce, you've got the hard bounce. Hard bounce is basically the address is completely wrong. It's invalid. So the email bounces and it's not going to ever get delivered, right? Soft bounce is obviously the email box is full, somebody's on vacation or the server is down. So the email address is still valid, it's just that it bounced for something external that is temporary, right? And then A/B testing. This is basically when you've got an EDM, you want to do some testing. You want to do more testing than just A/B testing, but this is one of the things that I got to explain. A/B testing is when you have got a distribution list, you've got your subscribers, and you want to test your EDM to see which is more effective, and then use that more often. Okay, so some of the strategies for EDMs, right? Have a valuable content with a clear call to action. You're surprised how many people don't do this, right? Use a technology called DKIM, okay? That allows you to ensure that the recipient of your email sees it, that it's actually coming from you, right? If I give a business my email address, I don't want to get correspondence from them coming from some other address that I don't recognize, right? So there are technologies that you can use that actually authenticate that and validate that, okay? And don't send images only. Actually use HTML and text. It's important to use HTML and text because you got to think about where people are receiving these emails, right? They're getting them on multiple types of devices. They've got smartphones, they've got tablets, sometimes on their desktops, right? Images might not show correctly because an image is going to be a certain size and can't resize it so easily. But HTML and text you can. So think about that. Address subscribers by name. I mean, how many emails have you received that says "Dear customer," right? That's not very personal, as opposed to "Dear John," right? So when you send out those EDMs, try and address people by name. It's more personal that way. Use appropriate landing pages, as talked about before. And then measure, test and measure. This is going to be recurring as we talk about this stuff, because you always want to see how things are performing and improve upon them, right? Some of the best practices, okay, some of them I've talked about before, like, for example, think about the recipients. Where are they likely to get the email? If you send an email at lunchtime, most chances are most people are out at lunch, they look using their phones. How is that EDM going to look to them, right? Compelling subject lines. People are getting like hundreds of emails a day, right? You want them to click on your email to actually look at the content, right? You don't want them to be like, I'll look at that later, because chances are, if they look at it later, if they get to look at it later, chances are they will not look at it later, because there's so many other emails that come up on top of that, and they'll forget about your email. People are distracted. Or they'll get your email like on the weekend, right? So if you can get them to look at it now and act on it now, the better, right? Or at least look at it and keep it in mind because it's compelling. Have a clear unsubscribe link, right? And they have a privacy policy. Be surprised how many companies don't do that, right? You send out emails to people, and then when people want to opt out of it, they've got no way to do that. And eventually they complain, which you don't want. And then also a privacy policy. If I'm giving you my email address, I want to make sure that you're going to use my email address for the specific purpose I'm giving it to you for, right? Conduct a 5-second test. Basically, when you design your EDM, check to see, like, okay, how people are responding to it when they look at it within 5 seconds. And there are actually websites that help you to do this. If I had time, I'll show you that, but no time. So you can evaluate how good your EDM, the impression that it's making within 5 seconds. And avoid those kind of words there, free, act now, because that stuff sends your email to spam. Okay? And again, if you go to Gmail, for example, Gmail, Hotmail, they'll have best practices that you can follow so that your emails don't go to spam. Some of this is where that comes from. In the US, they've got something called the Spam Act, right? It's actually a law that says you shouldn't spam people, right? Get permission from people to send them emails. Usually, typically, people will give you the email on your website. They'll come to your website, they see what they like, and then you say, well, if you like what you see, you want to subscribe. Give them that option. And some more best practices just below there. Do not use all capitals, because capitals mean you're yelling. This is the impression that capitals have on the web. If you send out an email, a bunch of caps, or dollar signs, that puts you into spam. Avoid attachments. Typically, people don't want to look at attachments. Or if they're looking at an attachment, if they're looking at it on the phone, then it's not convenient, because maybe that attachment, let's say it's a PowerPoint presentation, right? And then they don't have the application running on that particular device that they're using to look at your email, then they can't look at it right now. So don't use attachments. Try and put everything in the EDM itself. Of course, don't put anything that's explicit, because again, your email can get flagged. And then use the professional or authoritative email address, which ties back to the technology I told you before, DKIM. There's a website here that's called Mail Tester that you can use. It's an example. If you go to the website, I would love to show you, but again, we don't have time. If you go to this website, as soon as you get the website, it gives you an email address, right? And then if you send an email to that address, it will tell you how it's doing for spam. Gives you a rating out of 10. So it's actually good to try that out. Update your subscriber list using the testing that you're doing, right? To improve your campaigns and so on, ABN testing. And then if you have built up a list of, let's say you're building a database and you've got a list of email addresses, send out an introduction email, right? Typically, websites that do this well, when people give them an email address, it will send out a link saying, can you confirm the email, right? I'm sure you've seen that when you subscribe to something, because the reason they do that is they don't want some random person to use your email address to subscribe to something. So it sends an email, and then you actually have to confirm before it starts sending you things. So try to have something similar. And to avoid being blacklisted, again, Make sure that your website, the infrastructure that you're using to send the emails is you got all the security in place. There are no viruses, you don't have malware there, because you don't want to send a blast of emails to people and it's junk and it's coming from your address, right? There are tools you can use so that this kind of thing doesn't happen, and I'll introduce one of them later. But think about that if you're going to be managing this for yourself, right? Don't purchase mail lists. A lot of people purchase mail lists. It's a really bad idea because you don't know where those email addresses were obtained, right? You don't know whether the people with those email addresses actually consent to giving those email addresses. And the other thing is these guys might sell that email address to some other business that's got nothing to do with you. It's just a bad idea. It's better if you build your own and people know you because they've given you an address from your website, right? And there's another tool there. You can go to that website. It will tell you whether your domain is already blacklisted for free. Some popular tools, which some of you might be already familiar with: MailChimp, Constant Contact, Campaign Monitor. But I'm not going to talk about any of these. I'm just saying these are ones that are commonly used. At BSD, we use Amazon SES. Has anybody used Amazon SES here? Is anybody aware of it? Okay. At BSD, we use Amazon SES. And we use it in conjunction with another tool called Sendy. Right? The combination of Sendy and Amazon SES, we've realized that it's actually much more cost effective compared to MailChimp and all those other ones I talked about earlier. So what's Amazon SES? Basically, it's a service that allows you to send a bunch of emails, which you're doing anyway if you're sending EDMs, right? You send a whole bunch of emails, but it manages that for you, right? And it does it in a way that it offers, authentication, delivery confirmation. It gives you a lot of information that you want to know anyway. And it's quite cost effective in the sense that you only get to pay for the emails that you sent, right? There's no like flat rate for using Amazon SES. Now, it's not a replacement for your Exchange servers, right? What do I mean by Exchange servers? Basically, whenever you want to send out emails, right, you have to have infrastructure to do that. And typically, if you've got an organization, either you're using a third party to do it or you're managing that yourself. Amazon SES is not really that. It's just a channel, just a way for you to send out a bunch of emails, right? It's not a complete system. This is why I mentioned Sendy before. You need to complement Amazon SES with Sendy for you to manage your EDM campaign strategy, right? And it only guarantees delivery. So whenever you send out an email, as long as that email address is valid, the email box is not full, the person will get the email, right? Some of the features and benefits of Amazon SES, pretty simple to set up relative to other tools. There's no infrastructure need to set up. You just need to go to Amazon. They'll guide you through the process. Pretty straightforward. It uses a standard SMTP service, which is basically a protocol that's used to send emails. It's got DKIM support, which I mentioned earlier. And if you want to build an API, which I don't imagine a lot of people would do that, but if you want to, you can use that. And it's quite simple, right? Inexpensive, reliable, scalable. You can send like hundreds of emails, right? And there are no initial upfront costs to set it up, right? How does it help the business, right? Again, going back to DKIM, you can authenticate that you are actually the person sending the email. If you're managing your email infrastructure yourself, you might run into issues if you get attacked by a virus, right? It's very scalable. This infrastructure is used by Amazon itself to send out a bunch of emails. You can imagine Amazon has got probably millions of email addresses, and they send out promotions or whatever, so long as people are subscribing to them. So you're basically using Amazon's infrastructure that's fairly stable to send out your emails, right? It also offers, excuse me, it also offers a lot of information that you can use to when you do those tests with your EDMs to then improve your campaigns. Okay, and then you also are protected from spam, or what I was talking about when you've got viruses on your infrastructure. Amazon will prevent them from going out because you actually tell it who can send emails from your address. So if somebody compromises your website even, they are not going to necessarily be able to send emails on your behalf, right? And generally, it doesn't require any changes to your infrastructure because if you're sending out emails, you're already using certain protocols in place. So you just gotta hook up to it. That's it. So here's a diagram, which I don't know whether everybody can see it in the back, but this is basically how it works, right? Amazon SES would sit like right there. Use this. This is Amazon SES right there, okay? And you're the one sending the emails. We used Sandy, which is what I'm going to talk about just now. And Sandy is just a front end. It's web-based, and it allows you to manage this interaction with Amazon SES. So you send your emails, and then Amazon takes care of all this part for you, right? So these are examples of an email that has been sent, number 1, 2, and 3, right? So 4A got the email, fine, no problem. They get your EDM, they check it out. 4B, that's an invalid address, so it bounces back. You get that information, you see it in Sandy. 4C, this person complained, I don't want to get this email, so that complaint comes back. And Amazon manages that for you, okay? Let me show you this real quickly, because I always want to show the cost effectiveness of Sandy and Amazon. So if I go to their website, it's not com. Okay, so this is the Sandy front end, okay? If you want to use it, you go to it, and you see all this stuff, you know, basically telling what it's all about. But the thing I want to show you today is basically this section here. Here, okay? So for people who are using MailChimp, if you want to send like 10,000 emails, this is what you typically pay on MailChimp in Campaign Manager. With Amazon SES combined with Sandy, right, it's only $1. And as you move this along, you can see the cost savings. So now let's say you want to send 500,000 emails. See how much cheaper Amazon SES is compared to these others? Now when I was doing these slides, I was like, yeah, you know, they're just making that up because they want you to sign up to Sandy. But I actually went and researched the numbers, which you can do yourself as well, and that matches. So you can imagine the difference in price. You're sending out 500,000 emails. You're going to have to pay 5,000 on MailChimp. Whereas if you're using Amazon SES, it's only $50, which is much cheaper, which is why we use it. All right, go ahead.
So can this application easily link back to those CRM systems like Salesforce, for example?
I haven't tried it with that. We use it directly. We actually log into it directly. And it's got a lot of reports. It's got a lot of reports that you can look at once you actually log in and you've got an account set up. So you can see how your emails are performing and you do the testing. So I don't know whether you can hook it up to Salesforce. But I would suggest you go to the website and look at the information on it.
Sorry.
Mm-hmm.
So let's assume a situation like I send out email to
Mhm.
a person,
Mhm.
and I know that the person has already received this email, but he didn't respond to me. He didn't respond. He just said nothing. So how can I follow up with this email? I want to have a response from this person. How can I follow up? But I don't want to send out the same email.
Well, you can't really force anybody to respond.
No, just but I want to follow up with like if I use my mailbox, personal mailbox, I can send out email like meeting request.
Yeah.
And then a few days later, I can say like, hey, dear John, I have received your response. So what the hell? And can you please respond to me like something like this? But this now looks like very personal. It's not like send out similar one.
You can send out another email to people who haven't responded. And these tools will tell you that your email went to whoever and they haven't responded. It can tell you that. It just says, okay, the email was delivered. You can send out a follow-up email saying, we sent out an email a while ago. Do you guys have any comments or feedback? You can do that. But the thing, you don't want to risk bothering people, right? Or nagging them too much about responding, right?
It's not my personal experience. If I send out the first mail and then follow up using the mailbox, like I'm not sure if you have read the email below and can you respond to me. Like this one really worked. Because
So you send out to an email specifically to that person who doesn't respond?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not sure if I have like the some words like not sure if I have received my email below. Can you please check and you get something.
You can do that, but all I'm saying is don't do it too frequently because people get annoyed.
Using these tools, it's not possible to do it like
You can do it using the tool. Yeah, you can use the tool. So it tells you who's received the email and hasn't responded, right? So you can then, let's say initially you had 100 subscribers. You send out an email and maybe 50 responded.
Yeah.
You can see that on the tool.
But this will be like another email.
Yeah, so then the ones who did not respond, then you can send them another email, a different EDM.
That's why I don't want to send out another email. Just want to follow up with the previous email.
But
Manage this using this tool.
you want to follow up with the same email,
Yes.
so like a replied back to the original email?
Yes, exactly.
No, this tool won't allow you to do that. No, because it doesn't actually manage your email like your normal inbox would be, right? It's tailored just to send out EDMs. So if you want to send out another email, a fresh new email,
Yeah.
you can use the tool. But if you want to respond on top of the email you already sent, it doesn't really give that facility.
So there's no such tools in market now.
There might be, but I haven't used them. I haven't had this particular use case yet. Yeah. Okay.
Another question.
Sure.
About this Sandy.
Yeah.
Does it automate remarketing?
To some degree, it does. It doesn't completely automate everything, but you can go into it and you can actually design your EDM and test it out before you're sending out to your subscribers. So you can do some initial work in your EDM. If you don't want to use the facilities that it gives you to design your EDM, you can design your EDM separately in another tool, your favorite tool, right?
We're talking about remarketing. So for example, it's not an EDM today, and then it's about a certain product.
Yeah.
But the next EDM that they will receive from us is kind of a follow-up of that particular product that they clicked on but didn't inquire about. So it's kind of like retargeting EDM.
Okay, but you want that to be automatically sent?
Yeah.
Yeah, you can automatically send EDMs. You can schedule it to send EDMs. Yeah.
So, but it's smart enough to understand like which are the customers who click on a particular product.
No, it's not going to do that kind of intelligence. Okay. You have to do that manually. Yeah. Again, with your EDMs, you want to do reporting and tracking. You want to see how effective your campaigns are, right? By doing the testing, as I mentioned before. And integrate your EDMs with social media, right? In fact, all these different ways to market your business or your product, your service, you gotta hit them at multiple points, right? You want to do the search engine marketing, you want to do the SEO, you want to do the EDMs, and then we're going to cover next social media, right? Write copy that converts, that's obvious, and get help if necessary. You know what really works to get people engaged in what you're trying to sell. And then social media. What is social media, right? Is it this? I mean, you got a million websites now that in some way are related to social media, right? But what social media really is that a connection between you and another person. That's essentially what it is, right? And it just uses these tools, right? All these tools, all they do is facilitate that connection, right? The cool thing about this is that it's a channel. It's a way to engage with people directly in a way that you don't do with any other form of marketing, right? Because of that personal connection. It's a conversation also that's going on online. You know, you go to any of these social media websites, they've got a community. They've got ways for people to engage and communicate, right? So your customers are on it, your competitors are on it, your investors, everybody's on it, right? They're on it in one way or another. They might be on it professionally, for example, LinkedIn, or they might be on it personally, Facebook, Google+, right? But the point is they're on it and you can connect with them directly in ways that you cannot do in other ways, right? For example, with email, you've got somebody's email address, but you don't have that direct connection with them. You send out an email and that's it. It's gone out there into the world, right? You know they received it and that's it. That's the end of the conversation. But with social media, a conversation can start happening, right? And usually, if you've got a business, it's open and anybody can see it, which is to the point I was talking about, Charlie, before, where if you start getting negative publicity, let that conversation continue so that people, when they following your page, for example, they can see how you've handled the situation, right? It's not just marketing too. A lot of people, they think about social media as just another way to market to people, but it's more than that. It's also a way to see what's going on. I don't know whether you guys have noticed this. Those of you who have Facebook accounts, you'll see sometimes that if you log in, you'll see it'll show you sections like something is trending. Like when Robin Williams died, he was trending because people were talking about that. They might have not been talking about it on your particular feed, but they're talking about it on the social network, so it tells you that. Apple just did their keynote that was trending. So you'll see that kind of information there. That's information that is generated just because people are engaging the conversations online, right? You've got all these other things too. It's a way to develop your product because you get to see what people are talking about, what people are interested in, what people are following, right? It's customer support, going back to the point where I said, because you got that direct connection with customers, you can talk to them directly, as opposed to having them call some number, right? Or send you an email, which is less personal, right? You get a lot of feedback, not just from people engaging with your particular page, right? But you can see what's happening with your competitors, right? For example, I follow a lot of educational websites. Educational pages on Facebook, on LinkedIn, and so on, because I want to see what other people are posting about, what articles are they posting, and then I share that with my team. Or I share it on my personal page because it's relevant to what we do and what I'm interested in, right? Some of the keys to success: experiment, again, testing, right? A lot of the times people, they're like, all right, I want to use social media for my marketing efforts, but they've got no idea how to do this stuff, right? So the first thing is get an account on one of these social networks, right? They're free, you don't have to pay anything for them. Get on it, start playing with it, get used to how it works, right? And then go and set up your business account, for your business. Set up a page, right? Try the different tools to see which one works, which one you more comfortable with, because LinkedIn works differently from Facebook, which works different from Google+. The type of crowds that are on these networks are different, right? If you're a technology company and you're trying to sell gadgets and stuff, most people are really techie on Google+. They're on Facebook too, but a lot of the really techie people are on Google+, right? And of course, connect with people, because that's what it's all about, right? That connection. Make a plan, right? As with anything, make a plan, but something that's particular to social media. And how do you make that plan? You do it because you familiarize yourself with the technology first, and then you start actually saying, okay, given what I'm understanding about it and the way it works, what's my plan going to be, right? Listen, right? Just kind of follow what's going on social media. Once you start doing the testing, you're on there and you're following certain pages and you following what people are posting, then you get a sense of what's happening, and you also get more comfortable with the tools. The reason why a lot of people don't use this is because they're just not comfortable enough. So they'll just not even bother, but it's a great channel for you to actually do your marketing on, right? And they're tools that you can use, again, with social media. Facebook will give you a lot of tools to analyze your marketing strategies. We won't get into that today. It's just a whole nother thing. But they're tools that you can use once you start doing your campaigns to see how people are responding to your marketing campaigns. Be transparent and open. Basically, a lot of people think that now you're on social media, you still gotta have this impression of you always get things right. The one thing about social media is because is being that the fact that it's a connection, it's a direct connection between you and your customers, and it's very personal, right? Things are gonna go wrong sometimes. Your service is not gonna be as good as it normally is. You know, that happens. You know, this happens to businesses. People have problems with your product. You want them to see that interaction, right? Don't lie about it. Don't delete. Don't censor things. Let them see, and also be honest about it, because when people see that happening, then they feel more attached to your brand, because it's got a personal touch as opposed to just being a faceless corporation or faceless business that just wants people to use their products or services. Here's an example of somebody who was complaining about the food, right? And this guy doesn't even use his real account. He basically just made up an account so he could go complain to the New England Institute of Technology and see how they responded, right? They actually wanted to follow up on him. But just see how they could have, but they could have completely reacted differently, right? They could have deleted his message and acted as if nothing happened, but they didn't, right? So this is the way you want to handle it, because if I was somebody who ate there, I'll be like, oh, you know, look at how they treated him, so I can complain. I feel like I can connect with them. Okay, and share content. You know, like I said before, I'm also following a lot of companies that are in the same space as what we do. So I follow them too, just to see what they're posting, to see what the trends are, right? And then I share, or I retweet things if I see this is worthwhile retweeting, right? So it's not just about taking, it's also about giving back, which is the next point, right? And make sure that the content is shareable. If you post something, make sure that people can also share it easily, right? Because it makes you feel like you're part. It makes people think you're part of the community rather than just being a business out to sell them a product or service, right? Point number 6, right? Be a contributor, because if people see that you're contributing content that matters to them, most likely they're gonna follow you closely, right? As opposed to you're always selling stuff. Every post that you put, you're like, yeah, you know, I'm doing a discount, or I've got this, I'm selling, or that. If you're just contributing content sometimes that doesn't have anything to do with you selling something, but it's content that is relevant to your business, people like that. You know, they'll follow you even more. They'll promote you to other people. I tend to follow a lot of pages on Facebook, and LinkedIn, that some other people have mentioned. Like, I'll read a blog and I'm like, oh, they mentioned this. I go and check it out because I'm interested in whatever that company is doing. And then they start posting things on Facebook, then I follow that too. And that's how I build my list. And that's how it happens with most people if you're genuinely interested in the topic, right? Now, because it's social media, right, it has to be very personal. Think of social media as you're dealing with your friends. If you're on Facebook, for example, when you interact with your friends, it's very personal. You know, you don't shout, don't brag. The whole shout being, you know, again, tying back to the EDMs, not using capital letters, right? Speak as yourself, of course, as your brand, right? What are you trying to project, right? If you got somebody managing your social media strategy, you know, have a conversation with that person so that they consistently show that brand when they're on social media, because it's very personal, right? And again, we talked about this a couple of times now, but just to cover it again, don't delete any criticism, right? Just leave it there, but respond to it in a way that people feel like, yeah, you know, these guys, when I complained about something, they handled my case well, so I'm going to promote them to other people. I've actually done this. I've complained to certain businesses in Hong Kong, and they've responded very well. And because they've responded in that manner, I actually want to continue using their service, right? So imagine that for your business, right? Before social media, when people had any issues, you'd have to call some number, or you'd have to email somebody, or you'd have to go and complain at the store, and you were not always treated the same way, right? Now with social media, because everything is public, there's an incentive for companies to actually want to present a good image, right? Because people will see that. So admit the shortcomings. Admit we're wrong. How can we do things better? It's an opportunity for you to improve your brand. So don't delete it. Don't censor it. Be proactive, right? Basically, don't wait till you want to market something. Start engaging with the fans already. Try and understand what they're doing. Try and understand what appeals to them. See how many people like a particular post. Maybe that shows how much interest they have in that particular topic. Post more of that kind of stuff. Try out different things, right? Build those relationships organically, because that's how it works. Now, when you actually do it, for most entrepreneurs that are starting out business, right, they can't do everything at the same time. You've got your product, you got your service, it's up and running. Marketing is just one of those things you need to do. So try and get somebody to help you to do it if you don't have the time to do it, right? And going back to the previous slide that I had before, always have a consistent brand, consistent feel, because people associate you with what you're posting online. There are many times that people think a certain thing about me personally because of what I put on my Facebook page, right? And it didn't occur to me right away when I started using Facebook, but now it's apparent. People see what they see coming on your Facebook page, they assume it's you, right? Now think about how that works with your brand. You can actually model how you want people to see you. And if you have somebody helping you do that, then make sure that you're on the same page, right? What your brand is all about should be what you're also branding on Facebook and so on. And of course, get help if you need to. Again, because you've got tools to measure a lot of the performance of ads and stuff, you can actually see how you can measure success. You can see whether your campaigns on these social medias are increasing sales, right? People are, when people actually, let's say they use your service or product, you can ask them, how did you know about us? What encouraged you to do that? You can measure that, right? A lot of people just think likes are the only thing that you should look at, but it can go much more beyond that, right? You can actually, there are tools that Facebook gives you. I'm going to see that in the next slide. That gives you information of how people are interacting with your page, whether they're looking at it at all, whether they're clicking through it, they're scrolling through it. Facebook will give you that information. Show you in the next page. Okay, Facebook pages, right? When you set up a Facebook page, one of the things you got to think about is the brand that you're trying to, the message that you're trying to do with the Facebook page. Certain companies decide not to set up a page, but instead what they do is they set up a friend. The company is set up as a friend account, which means that when they set it up, they don't log in as a business. They log in as, you'd normally log in as your normal account. There are benefits and there are pros and cons to doing it that way. But regularly, normally you should actually set up a Facebook page, not set it up as a user, as a personal account. Because if you set it up as a user, you will lose out on certain information. I was talking about metrics before. You lose out on that kind of information. Whereas if you set it up as a page, then you get a lot more information that you can use to then change your campaigns. Okay? Facebook advertising will allow you to do certain things when you're actually doing the advertising. The tools that they give you allow you to tweak it. Very similar to what you have with Google and its AdWords tools. Right? You can pick out certain keywords to target certain people who are searching for those keywords. With Facebook, you can do something similar, right? You can look at specific demographics, where people are, the age ranges, and so on, and then target your marketing accordingly. And it gives you a lot of analytics. So what I was talking about earlier, Facebook Insights, it sends out an email. You can actually determine the schedule of how often you get that email. And there are tools on Facebook itself that allows you to look at analytics, how people are reacting, how people are interacting with your page. There's a graph there. You can kind of see. I don't know. It's not that clear. But you can log in and just play around with the tools there and see how it goes. If we had more time, I'd actually go through it and show you. One of the things I had mentioned before where I said set up your EDMs with social media, one of the things you can also do is set up your website with Facebook. You might have seen on certain web pages where it says, you'll see the blog or something, and it'll have a lot of these icons, and one of them will be Facebook, it'll have a Google Plus and some other icons. And you can actually like the content, whether it's a product or it's an article, you can like it. And then if you like it on that web page, it registers on your Facebook account as long as you're logged in, right? This is enabled because of Facebook Connect, right? So Facebook can actually then post information about your interaction outside of Facebook because of those icons. And that promotes SEO because there's a connection there between your social presence and your web presence. So use Facebook Connect on your websites, right? Also, the other thing you can do is when people, if let's say on your website they're logging in, right? You can ask them to log in using Facebook or log in using Google Plus or LinkedIn. So again, you're tying in your social campaigns, your social marketing with your website, search engine marketing. Things to do on Facebook: create a page, attract fans. There are many ways you can do that. Engage, create a community, interact with people, share using your page, which we do all the time with BSD. Share information via your page, not just marketing material, information that's got something to do with your business or service, right? Don't create a page and not maintain it, because how often does it happen when people are following you on Facebook, for example, and then you don't post for a week or two and people think something's happened or they forget about you? Similarly with a business. Once you've got a page, try and maintain it. Now, that doesn't mean you need to maintain it every day or every hour, but have the consistent schedule of maintaining it so that people are aware of it, because you've heard that phrase, out of mind, out of sight, out of mind, right? So you want to be always present. I'm sorry.
But is it different on Facebook than a normal site? So, you want to be fresh and be interesting and show movement on both, right? So otherwise it gets stale and you don't have news posted or you don't have, the latest news in your company or product or service or whatever. It gets stale. People just don't come to both. Is there a difference between a Facebook page and a normal website?
Your website, most of the times you'll have static content, except, let's say if you're selling a product, that product will change over time, right? So that part changes. But one of the other things you can do on your website is if you have a blog or you've got an editorial about something that's happening. So that will also change with time, right? Now that's different to something like Facebook or any of these social networks. There you're posting content that might not have anything to do with you selling anything, but it's relevant to your business. So people still see that you're sharing information and you engage with them, but it's in a different way. You don't necessarily have to be posting information that's coming from your website for that matter, but you're still engaging with your community. So people keep thinking about you, you're on their minds. So that you create that presence of mind in their mind in different ways on a website and on Facebook. Facebook, typically, you just want to make sure that people see you updating things that's relevant to them, that's relevant to your business, or related, right? So that way they keep in mind. So let's say you're using the example of shoes again. You're posting something related to shoes so that when they do want to buy something that has something to do with shoes, then they'll come to you because they keep seeing you. An example of a company that does that quite well in Hong Kong that I see it on my Facebook all the time, even though I didn't subscribe to it, but I see it. It's Zolara. How many of you guys seen that? Yeah, see, there you go. Zolara they do this very well. So now I know Zolara, and now I'm mentioning Zolara to you guys. Imagine if I was mentioning your company, right? So they always posting on, it's always showing up on my feed one way or another. And I think it's because they're paying for those ads. But you can do that if people are following your page. So they see what's going on, right? They sell shoes and clothes and stuff. Yeah. But I mean, I never subscribed to them. You know, I didn't like them or anything, but I see them on my feed consistently. So now I'm aware of them, right? So you want people to be aware of you rather than somebody else. Tweeting business, again, Twitter is another platform for you to engage with your customers. But the good thing about Twitter is it's more direct. Facebook has got a whole lot of other things you can do, whereas Twitter it's simpler, it's quicker, it's more immediate, right? So be on Twitter too, right? Have a Twitter account. I was working on something and I went to the company, guys at Google, and I went and I found the guy who was actually working on that piece of code, and I was like, well, I need to explain something in a minute or less. How do I explain it? And I tweeted directly to him, and he responded, right, within like an hour or two. You know, I wouldn't have done that on Facebook because Facebook, I gotta be his friend, and I can send him a message. It's different, right? But I could do it on Twitter because Twitter, you can follow anybody. You just need to find them, right? So think about doing that for your business, right? Apple was doing their keynote last night. I was watching it, and they were having problems with their network. I went right there and I tweeted to Tim Cook, right? Hey, you know, what's going on with your network? The next thing you know, and not because I don't think it was because of my tweet, but they stopped doing the live feed. I mean, now the video is there after the event, but they were trying to do a live feed. But this is what I'm trying to say. You know, you basically can engage with people directly and immediately, right? As opposed to sending an email, which they might look at later or whatever. Think about using Twitter for that. I have a presence on Twitter. And a lot of the things that I'm talking about with Facebook are true for Twitter. You know, the whole be personal, you know, don't try to delete or censor things. Just engage with people, right? And you'll be surprised how effective this is. Starbucks does this very well. Go check out their Twitter account. They're very good at doing this, right? And they give people like discounts, and you know, they engage with people as if they're just a friend, right? And people come to Starbucks more frequently because of that. Again, some of the same points. Share something that's useful to people. Ask questions, answer questions, make it fun. Post some pictures sometimes. See what people are saying. Okay, and engage with them. Things to avoid: don't sound like press release. People don't want to see that. Remember, you've got that personal connection. Imagine if you had a friend on Facebook and he was always posting something about, you know, this product or that product. Eventually, you'd probably like not follow that person or defriend them, right? Don't spam. Don't post useless information. And don't worry about picking up the followers. That will grow organically, right? So in summary, things to do on social media for marketing: experiment, make a plan, listen, be transparent, share your content, act like a person. This is key. Just use that as a model for everything. Be generous, and then see criticism as an opportunity and be proactive and accept that you can't do it all by yourself. And we're done. I'm sorry I had to rush through all of this stuff. Thank you.